This is Sasha with the LTRC. Thank you for joining us for increasing personal injury case value and client satisfaction with our sponsor BQE Core and attorney Paul S. Padda as part of the LTRC Industry Insights series held every Wednesday. Our speaker today is Paul Padda. Paul Padda decided to form a law firm that would assist individuals and businesses in vindicating their legal rights. Given his own life experiences and having witnessed injustice firsthand, Paul decided to dedicate his legal talents towards helping others. Believing that every person has an obligation to give back to society and make a difference in one's community, Paul and his law firm dedicated significant time and resources to various organizations and outreach activities dedicated to empowering local communities. Mr. Petta and his law firm established the Community Justice Fellowship in partnership with the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. Our moderator today will be Rosemary Kupfer. Rosemary Kupfer is the product expert at Core Legal for BQE Software, Inc. Has more than 30 years of experience working in and with law firms. From her time as a firm administrator to her many years consulting with over 1,000 firms nationwide, Rosemary has helped firms with business and technology needs. She has improved firm workflow and administrative efficiency. Rosemary has implemented time, billing, accounting, case management, document assembly, and management and docketing solutions. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that very nice introduction, Sasha. I really appreciate it. My name is Paul Padda, as mentioned. I am the managing attorney and the owner of Paul Padda law firm based here in Las Vegas, Nevada. As mentioned in my introduction, I came to the private practice from the government. I spent the majority of my legal career as a federal prosecutor and federal trial attorney. After law school and a clerkship, I started through the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. I worked in Washington for many years, then I moved out to Las Vegas. And eventually I wanted to start my own practice. And I wanted to do what I did in the government, which is basically that, as a plaintiff's lawyer, I always have the burden of proof. So I love representing plaintiffs. And it wasn't really that different from government in the sense that when you're a prosecutor, you have the burden of proof as well. So everything I'm going to talk to you about today, I mention all these things only to let you all know that I did come with a lot of experience from a private law firm where I had an opportunity to observe and see things and how other firms did it. Everything I'm going to talk to you today are things that I learned about on my own through trial and error, through a lot of mistakes, and just a lot of insights that I gained from being in private practice and taking my practice to another level. And so I'm really pleased to be able to share some of these things today. And the topic, as you can see, is increasing personal injury case value and client satisfaction. Next slide. Yeah. All right. So the motto of my law firm is it's not about the injury, it's about the recovery. And, we had this on billboards here in Las Vegas. We were advertising it on TV. And when I did that, it was amazing. I had a real overwhelming response to that. And many people asked, well, how did you come up with that? So the genesis of coming up with that slogan was that in 2018, we decided we needed to really take a hard look at the personal injury industry, if you will. And as a result, we formulated some observations. One of them is that, of course, Las Vegas is a really competitive legal market for personal injury. This is a 24/7 city. There's accidents all the time. And you can't walk 10 feet without seeing a billboard, or you can't turn on a TV channel without having some personal injury attorney advertising. And so personal injury law is very, very competitive in Las Vegas. You either can compete competitively or you're not going to make it. Then we had a law school that opened up here, and so that generated a lot of new law grads, many people who just went out and hung out their own shingle. It just increased the competition. And Vegas overall, although it's a city of 2 million, it's certainly not Los Angeles, and there's bigger cities, but for its population, it's very, very, very competitive. One of the things I think that's a big myth about personal injury is that, it's simple. You just, make a demand to the insurance company and you get a settlement. Personal injury cases are very complex, and you need to know how to do them correctly to get maximum value for your clients. Many attorneys think they can just simply manage cases, but what happens is that oftentimes cases, if you don't have the right processes in place, you can end up undervaluing your cases. And the insurance companies, which deal with personal injury cases all day long, they know this, they know what to look for. They train their adjusters to look for certain attorneys who just send in basic pro forma type demands. And what that ultimately does is it reduces settlement amounts. So in my experience, what I've come to conclude is that there's really three types of law firms. There's the churn and burn firms that just kind of get the client in, get a quick settlement, get them out. There's some that are doing stuff, but they're slightly checked in, but not fully there. And then there's the quality firms that really get maximum value for their clients. And the question really is, who do you want to be? And that's a question I had to ask myself in 2018. I was very influenced by an attorney named John Morgan, who wrote a book, You Can't Teach Hungry. I read it. It's a very simple little book, but it's got some tremendous insights by someone who's achieved a lot of success in personal injury law. And the starting premise for his whole book is that you have to ask yourself a question. Would you want a loved one to be represented by your firm? And you ask that very honestly. And when you ask that question and you introspect, it really is a game changer, because it makes you realize, you know what? People are coming to me, they're at a low point in their life, they're putting their trust in us. We have to be at the top of our game. And what can we do to give them the maximum value in their cases? So it's a good question to ask yourself every day. Would I want a loved one coming to this law firm? Here's what I observed, and I have observed regarding a significant percentage of my clients. Many clients are non-compliant. They really don't understand the personal injury process and the importance of being an active participant. And so as a result, sometimes they may go to some medical appointments, often they don't. And this is stuff I started to come to observe in 2018. Also, clients often were complaining about no contact beyond simply being signed up, and then they get sent away, and then there's no one checking up on them. Things are sort of on autopilot, go to a bunch of doctors, we'll call you later, we'll get all the medical records, we'll make a demand. That left some clients feeling like we didn't care. And again, this was all happening. These are questions and observations that I was having in 2018 when I realized we need to do something here. Often clients would disappear. The disruption in their life due to treatment and scheduling is sometimes just too much for a lot of people. I mean, many people are dealing with financial difficulties. Some folks are single parents, got to take their kids to school, they got to raise their children, or if they have family members. There's just a lot going on in everyone's life. And so on top of that, you as a lawyer, you expect them to now go to all these medical appointments, wait for hours sometimes for a doctor to see them. And sometimes clients would just sort of check out of the process. Ultimately, a lot of clients sometimes would express anger, and they have a feeling like the lawyer is supposed to do everything and just get the case settled, or that attorneys don't add a lot of value. It's like, hey, I could have done this myself, or feeling that, and I think this is often very common. What I've seen is that there's not always a big correlation between the value of the case. I've had clients who we've gotten them $1 million settlement and they didn't seem that appreciative. And I've had clients who we got a $2,500 settlement and they were hugging me and crying. So I think that making clients recognize your value is really, really important. And that's an educational process that we'll talk about. So on top of making observations about my clients and how do they get to that point, you have to introspect and look within. And we did that in 2018. And here's some observations we came up about our staff. First, sometimes a lot of staff did not really fully understand the reason why it's important to move cases quickly and not let them linger. Often we'll hire people, sometimes people with no industry experience. I'm a believer that, just because you've done it for 20 years doesn't mean you're necessarily good at it. So I've hired people who came to me with no experience, we trained them up. But I find that with a lot of people in the legal profession, even if they're very experienced or some who are not experienced, you really have to inculcate in them this idea of stepping into the client's shoes and understanding how important it is to not let cases linger. Some staff members, they had favorite clients and they would play hot potatoes with the more difficult clients or the ones who would call constantly. And that's just human nature. We don't want to often deal with confrontation, and staff members are obviously not lawyers always. So For them, it was easier to deal with the clients they liked and to ignore the ones that they thought were a hot potato. You could say it was almost personal, and that's really just a human problem. And then also you have to be really careful is that you not let an atmosphere get created in your firm that it's okay to ignore clients that they and who the client, your staff may not want to manage. As my mom, who owned a business, once told me, the customer's always right. So I try to tell that to my staff is that, look, you have to understand it's the clients that allow us to keep the lights on. They are the lifeblood of our firm. You will deal with difficult people. They're going through bad times in their lives. You have to understand that. And there is a huge element of psychology and sociology in this job. Communication between attorneys and staff about cases was sometimes inconsistent. And so sometimes meetings were kind of hit or miss. Sometimes we'd have one, sometimes we wouldn't. We'd discuss the same issues, sometimes about the same cases. Ultimately, what we found is, meetings can be the bane of any business, and it can be really a problem. You just have meeting after meeting. The meetings have to mean something. And so if the meetings are not moving the case forward, then they're pointless. And so we've kind of come to the point where we say we have to have clear direction in every meeting. What is this meeting about? We need to discuss our cases. We don't want to have a lot of too much opinion and negativity about, oh, well, this client's no good or that's not. What are we doing to move the case forward? That's what's important. Okay, and that was again happening in 2018. Next slide, please. So it was time for self-reflection. Where do we go from here? A lot of unhappy clients. Settlements felt like they could be better. Cases were moving too slowly. Staff seems disconnected. Marketing was a significant spend, but we didn't really seem to have a plan. The firm didn't have an identity. Who did we want to be? That's a really important question. And now, for those of you, the attendees here, who I'm assuming most of our folks are lawyers, I'll just tell you, as an attorney, it's really difficult. You're dealing with all of the aspects of running a business, trying to manage your staff, trying to manage expectations with clients. It's really hard. And I'm telling you this because I was in your situation. If you're watching feeling like, yeah, the hardest part is knowing what to do next, then really, this is, I want to give you practical advice and help you with how to get to a point where you can have concrete things that can make your practice better. So what we did is we said, okay, we need a plan. We hired outside help. We got somebody from New York to come in and help us. Now, I just want you to know, you don't need to spend a lot of money on this. This is something that you can do yourself. You could have somebody like a friend or family member who's maybe really adept at compiling information, you can type. Get a focus group together. Get a bunch of clients, maybe people who could be potential clients, friends, and ask them a series of questions. And here's what we asked a lot of people. We compiled this focus group and we asked them, what makes you choose an attorney? What makes you stay with an attorney? What are the challenges in a case? What makes you think you had the best law firm? And what puts you at ease with your situation? These are really key and important questions because they really will provide you with a lot of insights in terms of what people are thinking about. And what I think you'll be very surprised to learn is that what clients think are important issues are things that you may not even be thinking about as important issues. So the big enlightening answer, surprise, surprise, was, what makes you choose an attorney? Well, because that person cares about me. What makes you stay with an attorney? Well, because they care about me. What are the challenges in a case? Life changes, but they care about me. Again, all the way down the line, really, clients want the focus to be on them, and they want to know, are you going to make my life better? They don't care that you went to an Ivy League school. They don't care that you scored really high on your SATs or LSAT. They don't care if you're Order of the Coif. None of that really matters. If someone wakes up and they get in a car accident, they want to know, is this person going to help me get back to where I was before? And too often in our profession, we're very credential obsessed. And I think that's a focus that sometimes lawyers lose sight of the fact that you put yourself in the shoes of that client. They want to know, are you going to make their life better? Now, if you work for a big corporate law firm and your client base is a general counsel of a corporation, yeah, they might look at things like, class rank and where'd you go to school. But in the personal injury realm, what they want is someone that gets them. The clients want to know somebody cares and that you can tell their story effectively and get them to a point of recovery. So this was a huge eye-opener for us. Why? Because often when you look at lawyer commercials, especially in the personal injury realm, you're inundated with this concept of it's all about financial gain. You know, in society, we're taught that money can cure everything, and that if a client gets a big amount of money, then they're just going to be happy by definition. We disconnect from our clients during treatment. We have a tendency to focus so much on the financial recovery and overlook the emotional and medical aspects of that recovery. So sometimes without talking to our clients, we don't really understand how they've been affected. And believe me, clients want to talk to us. Often, the clients who do not want to talk should be a red flag or a hot potato. What's going on? And you can delve deeper and you find out there's a lot of issues as far as people, sometimes some people are just not comfortable opening up, how they process things, but it will give you tremendous insights. And like everything, it comes down to the human connection. Firm behavior starts from the top down. It's the tone that you set as a lawyer that will trickle down to your staff, and then make sure that we create a culture in every law firm that it's not about the money per se, it's really about the client and getting them to a position of recovery. If you can focus on their recovery, the money will come. So what we concluded was that maybe being the bigger, badder, and bestest, I don't know if that's even a word, but those things were not the right message. That's not the right message to send to our clients and to our staff. So one of the things that we started doing was that, okay, now we've got this data, we know what clients want, how do we change? What we implemented here were 6 things that made a huge, huge difference in my practice. And they're not necessarily earth-shattering things, but sometimes the most basic things and focusing on those things, sometimes it's easier said than done, but focusing on those things can make a tremendous difference. So number 1, we now, from the very beginning, try to manage client expectations. We explain the process to them. We explain why medical treatment is really important. We tell them why they need to care for themselves and stay in contact with us. Now you might think, well, this should be done in every case. And it should be. I don't have time necessarily to meet with every single client that comes in. We sign a retainer, I have other lawyers, but it's about educating your staff and your attorneys. And maybe if you're a small practitioner, it's really spending that extra 30 minutes telling them, okay, look, here's what's going to happen. This is how we submit a demand. If the insurance company doesn't agree or they don't pay a fair settlement, we may have to go into litigation. Let me explain to you that process. You'd be amazed. People really do appreciate that. And then the other big thing is staying in regular contact with your clients and making sure you record that fact. You know, the number one reason that bar complaints get filed is because clients always say, my attorney never calls me back. And understandably, those of us who are in this profession, we all get the fact that, you know, like they say, the law is a jealous mistress. This is almost a 24/7 hour job. It can consume every aspect of your life. And before you know it, a week turns into a month, and a month turns into a year, and time really flies, and clients feel often neglected. So it's really important to create a system where you have a tickler system where maybe, you know, you every month, make sure you contact a certain percentage of your clients, and you do that every month. And so that way, if it's not you, assign a staff member, even someone to just check in to say hello. It is really important. Record that fact in your case management software. If the clients complain later, you can say, look at how many times we called you. That's really valuable. And you know, if there's a staff member that doesn't get along with the client, we'll try to find someone else who can. Because again, it's not about that particular staff member. It's about bringing people together who can work well. And so that's the only way you're going to get to a good result. Monitor your cases. Make sure you're never upside down financially in terms of how many costs you're spending. Again, case management software can make a huge difference. Having accurate reports, being able to monitor costs that are being spent on a case, as much as we want to believe that we're in a profession, and we are, but we're also in a business. And really, that business is about the business of helping clients. It's not just a profession of helping clients. And I tell you this because costs are really important. You can have a doctor run up a huge bill and there's only, you know, $25,000 in insurance coverage. Now you have to either go back to a doctor and ask them to make a significant reduction. Maybe they're not so happy. So I tell you this because managing costs is a hugely important part of what we do, and having the right software program can make a big difference. We monitor the value of our cases. Time tracking, even though you think, well, in contingency firms, we don't track our time. You don't have to track your time by, you know, 0.6 by the hour, but you should track activities in terms of what you're doing on the case, and get your staff members to start recording activities. That way you can always go back and recreate a timesheet if you have to, by assigning how much time you may have looked at it. And that data can be extremely valuable because it can tell you that, hey, there's certain cases that a slip and fall takes normally this many hours, a car accident will take this many. That kind of data is information that can be really, really helpful. Also, time tracking helps eliminate leakage, which can go a long way in working smarter, but not harder. So what we found was by doing all of these things, we actually increased our case values by 20%, which is pretty dramatic when you think about it. And you add up all the different cases, that can be some real money there. So that was really an eye-opener for me. Again, always playing with the data, developing data, train your staff, get them to understand that an emotional injury is real and it can change a person's entire personality, and that you often will deal with people who seem angry, combative, but it's not, again, about the injury. It's about getting them to a point of recovery. They didn't ask for that accident, and now they're turning to you for help. And you're dealing with all the other things in your life and the struggles of dealing with the business, but you have to take a step back and understand where your clients are coming from.
Right.
So I want to talk about an actual case that was really an epiphany. I have a friend who came to me who was rear-ended in a car accident. This is a person who was a successful professional. I won't go into the details, but in terms of obviously attorney-client privilege issues, but I can just tell you that this case is really illustrative on a smaller scale of what I think is occurring in almost every case. So this woman was rear-ended. She had a very, outgoing personality. After her accident, she went to another attorney. The attorney gave her the name of a treating physician and told her, just go see this person and don't worry about it. So she went to a chiropractor, then she went to a pain management doctor. But the attorney never returned her phone calls. She was very frustrated. She would send emails. She just wanted basic answers that she was not getting, or if she got answers, it was always very terse, and she was made to feel like she was bothering the lawyer. When she came to me, she was really stressed out. She was not necessarily an easy client to deal with in the beginning, and it was really what I came to conclude was because she had such a bad experience with another lawyer that I had to basically overcome that obstacle and explain to her that, look, you're not a nuisance. We want to answer your questions. We welcome clients who answer questions. We are here to work with you. Recognize these are the challenges in your case, but it's going to be all right. Just you have to stick with the protocol. So while her doctors were telling her everything was going to be all right, she was telling us that, look, I'm having memory loss issues. I feel like my personality's changed. I'm not the same person. And, while I'm not a doctor, it certainly was obvious to me that, hey, why has she not been referred to a neurologist? I mean, she's just going through the normal car accident protocol and being sent to chiropractor. So we sent her to a neurologist initially here in Las Vegas, and then referred her out to another neurologist in Atlanta who was awesome. And she is a neurologist who was affiliated with Grady Memorial Hospital, and then someone who really had a lot of experience with brain injury cases. That was amazing because I think getting the client to the right doctor can make all the difference in the world. And so she got on the right treatment protocol, and she was able to kind of get the exact type of help that she needed. Now, that's not managing medical care. That's just knowing what your client's going through and then suggesting to the doctors that, look, I mean, they're busy professionals too, and sometimes chiros just focus on the chiropractic aspect, but they may not necessarily be thinking, hey, does this person actually have a traumatic brain injury? So we sent her to a neurologist who did diagnose her with a TBI, and that was immensely helpful to the client, who now felt like she really was getting the help she needed and was, to borrow our phrase, on the path to recovery. So recognize that clients are injured. they're physically, financially, and emotionally scarred. They're feeling like, I didn't ask for this accident. Now I got bills piling up. I don't feel right. Am I ever going to be better? And get away from just focusing on the financial and look at the whole picture. So by getting this client the treatment she needed, we were able to pay attention to her emotional issues and red flag the emotional response she was having to the accident. And so she's not a red flag, but her issues were a red flag. She needed neurological help, and she got it. The original attorney had told her, had received a $65,000 settlement offer, and it was strongly encouraging the client to take that offer, telling her that really, since there was some damage, but not a lot of damage, it was only, I think about $1,500 or less in property damage, that this is not a high value case. She came to us after terminating her relationship with that attorney. By getting her to the right doctors, we were able to settle the case for $250,000. Now, I think actually the case could have been settled for more, but the client, because of where she was, we sat down and explained to her, if this went into litigation, we think we can get her more money. The client said, no, I'm at a point where I think I'm on the path to recovery. I feel a lot better. I'm getting great help from the doctor. I don't want to be in litigation for 2 years or even a year, and I'd rather just take this money now. And so she did that. That was her decision. But the point is, we 4x'd the original settlement amount and got her to a $250,000 settlement, which was pretty amazing. And that was all based on just listening to what this client was going through. So again, listening to your client, being checked in with your client is immensely important. This is the part where I'm going to sort of turn it over. And this is, again, timekeeper dashboard is really important. If you don't have a software program, you really ought to think about getting one. I'm not advocating a particular one. I use Needles, but there's so many out there, and it really doesn't matter which one you have. But get a good one. Get a system that you're comfortable using and incorporate it into your practice. I cannot emphasize enough that you got to always remember that we are in a business, and really the business is ensuring that the client gets the maximum recovery. Now, we're bound by professional ethics. We're bound by rules of conduct as lawyers, but never lose sight of the fact that we are in a business. And I always tell my staff, you might just see something and think it's just a pile of paper, but that paper has a story behind it, and that's the client's story. That pile of paper is an asset. And how do we maximize that asset? A stock could be worth $2 or it could be worth $1,000. It's what people perceive it to be. So the same is true in personal injury cases. If you work these cases, if you get to know your clients, if you check in with them, if you have a system in place, the change you will see in your practice is incredible. It can really be transformative. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Rose. Thank you so much. I hope this has been informative. Anyone that ever has any questions is welcome to contact me. I can be reached at my email address, psp@paulpaddalaw.com, or you can check out my website at paulpaddalaw.com or call our office. I reached out to attorneys when I started my practice, even though I had a lot of courtroom experience having come from the United States Department of Justice. What I didn't have was an experience running a business, and that was the biggest challenge. So I'm always of the mindset, my doors are always open to anyone that wants to ask me questions and learn from my experiences and my errors. But it's been an amazing experience, and I'm always here to help others. Thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to Rose.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate your valuable insight on winning cases and understanding the emotional part of a client's injury. I think that's very important because a lot of attorneys are just out for the buck. And I can see, working with your firm on technology, knowing when I walk in your door, I always feel that warm feeling that you do have the empathy and caring for your clients. But as we all know, with regard to running your business operations, it's not only about the case, it's about the financial side. And Core Legal will provide your firm with a lot of tools to be able to capture more time, monitor time, run reports, and basically provide the business metrics to further budget and run business operations. So Core Legal will provide your firm with friendly dashboards. So we have the management dashboard, which Paul showed you, which shows metrics. It shows where your clients are at, where your firm's at financially as a whole during the month. And then as you progress and you give your timekeepers the tools, they have their dashboards. So when the timekeepers log in, you notice on these dashboards, they can see their time, they can see their goals, they can see any to-dos or events they have coming up. So the dashboards are user-friendly overviews of your timekeeper information. So, and those can be customized for each timekeeper. Next slide. And then Core Legal will provide your firm with several options for entering time. You have your time card, where it's just a quick entry view where you can see your time, calculates it, just kind of in a spreadsheet format. And then we have the next slide, which is time entries. Now this gives you more of a line item view where you can enter your A codes, your L codes if your firm is doing leads billing. And you can put your detailed descriptions in, and we can provide shortcuts and help you get your time entered faster so your timekeepers can monitor their time in one screen. So you have your time entry. And then we have our next slide. A mobile app. Core Legal's mobile app is one of the most powerful apps on the market that I've seen. And not only because I work there, but I've seen a lot of them and I evaluate software all day long. Our mobile app gives you a full functionality with it. You have your time, billing, accounting, HR, it has dashboards, and it also is built with artificial intelligence. So you do have the ability to ask Core Legal's mobile app questions. How much money do I have in my bank today? Does John Smith, the client, have enough money in his trust funds to allow me to hire an expert witness? Do I have enough money in my bank account to take Mr. Padda for a nice dinner for being our presenter today? So there's all these questions that our mobile app is also built with scanning for automatic uploading of receipts. So your mobile app is just like having your full functioning program on your mobile device. And then we have our next slide, which is Core Legal has very robust reporting. And as Paul mentioned, you know, I work with a lot of firms and some of them track time and some of them don't. And in my opinion, personal injury firms that do not track their time are losing out. Number one, you always need to know where you are with fees and costs. Is this valuable for us? And then if something happens, like that bad attorney, Paul's client, where he was able to turn that person around, they had to sub out. And if that attorney worked 6 months on the case and then subbed out and he did not track his time, he does not know the value. And to recreate that is an awful mess. So with having, you know, again, your billing program open all day, your ability to have your timekeepers enter time as they work cases, you do not lose time, you're not recreating time at the end of the month. And then you have the ability to generate reports to see where you're at. And Core Legal also provides you the ability to automatically memorize reports and deliver them. So if you have attorneys that want their cash flow reports every Monday at 9 a.m., Core will memorize those and automatically deliver them. A lot of features and functionality in a state-of-the-art, fresh, modern program like Core Legal. Does anybody, well, and then, you know, again, Core Legal also offers split billing. So if you have to tender a defense on a case, you can split the bills. And it's really easy. It'll send everybody their own bill with a, you know, a chart at the bottom that says, this is your portion of fees, this is your portion of costs. And you can split that amongst many files. We also have leads billing. Okay, oh, this is an example. Okay, I'll go back one. Ease of splitting bills. You could see on the bottom that there's just the split bill information. So it's at the bottom of the bill. So every matter that you're split with can see exactly what they're being charged. And then again, we also have leads billing, which is the ability to export, leads files in batches, upload them to your third-party administrators.
Great. Well, thank you to both Paul and Rose for answering those questions. That's all the time that we're going to have for today. One more time, thank you to our sponsor, BQE Core, and everyone for attending our webinar today as part of the LTRC Industry Insight Series. If anyone's curious about future webinars, you can check out the ABA LTRC page or follow our Twitter at LTRC for updates. One more time, thank you, Paul and Rosemary, for presenting today. We will now conclude the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.